All right. Good morning, everybody. So good to see you all here. This is the annual host agency meeting um, for all of our partners. So thank you so much for taking the time today. There will be time at the end for any questions that anybody might have, but also feel free to interrupt if something is prevalent, and I will try to keep an eye on the chat as well. I have a lot of windows open on my screen, so I'm going to do my best to kind of manage all of the things. But this is the annual host agency meeting, as I said, and my name is Kathryn Gerhards. I am the Director of Employment Services, so I oversee the Senior Employment Program for the entire state. I'm based out of Oregon, or not that too. I'm based out of Portland, but I travel as much as I can. I know I've seen some familiar faces on here and some I think I've just emailed with. But it's very good to see you all here today. And I don't think I have this in the slide, but we provide the senior employment program in every county of the state of Oregon except for three. So those three are Sherman, Gilliam, and Harney. And the only reason that we're not in those counties is because of the population size. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how the Department of Labor recognizes and sets our standards for where we can provide services and kind of what that looks like in a little bit. Here is the agenda for today. So we're just going to do some staff intros for those of us that are here. We have some thank yous and shout outs from our staff to host agencies, some fun facts to share. We're going to talk a little bit more about the senior employment program. We're going to touch on timesheets, do some reminders, and then there'll be time for Q&A, and I will be respectful of your time and make sure that you are out of here by 10 o'clock at the latest, because I want to make sure that we're respectful of all of your time. So I've already introduced myself, so I'll just turn it over. I know I saw Andy to introduce himself.
Good morning, everybody. Glad you guys could make it. I see a bunch of people still pouring in, so it's good to see some familiar faces, and I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about your experience with our program, as well as sharing some information about what we do. Thank you.
And Wanda, I know I saw you too.
Good morning. I'm Wanda Malone. I do the payroll and coordinate the databases, all the information, the ins and the outs and the everyday movement. And I work with all of the counties in Oregon, and I see a lot of names I recognize because I work with them on a daily basis. So good to see you.
Susie, I don't know if you jumped on. Or Sharisa.
I don't think either of them are on.
Renee threw me off with her name being Susie when she joined, so I'm just on with it. Sam, I think I saw you jump on.
No. Hi, my name is Sam Harkins. I'm the employment specialist in the northwest corner of the state. So I've got Washington, Columbia, Clatsop, Tillamook, and Yamhill County.
And Rachel, I think I saw you ping-ponging today.
Hi, I'm Rachel Mitchell. I work with the state grant for a portion of Multnomah counties, and then I also have Hood River and Wasco County.
Good to see you. Ashley, I think I saw you too.
I'm Ashley. I am the employment specialist in Clackamas County, and I also help oversee part of Multnomah County.
Awesome. I don't think I saw Nicole, but so I'll go to Renee. I know you're here.
Sorry about that. I was channeling Susie. I forgot. I couldn't find my microphone. I am Renee Waddell. I'm based out of Salem. I am the employment specialist for Marion, Polk, Lynn, and Benton counties.
Rose, I saw you jump on.
Hi, I'm Rose Sorfa. I'm in the Portland office. I'm an employment specialist. I'm working with the sector grant with placing seniors into sector-specific trainings, and then on the job trainings and employment in Multnomah, Clackamas, Washington, and Marion counties.
And Anisha, I think I saw you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anisha here in Southern Oregon, employment specialist for Jackson, Josephine, Coos, and Curry.
And I don't think I saw Bobby. I don't think I missed anyone, so I'm going to keep on keeping on. So as you can see, our staff are relatively spread out across the state because we want to provide as much in-service or in-person supports as we possibly can. So we're all kind of all over the place, which is great. That allows us to meet with participants where they're at and provide a better level of service in those communities. And I just want, I just wanted to take a second to say welcome to our newest partners. So we are partnered with about 200 partners across the state of Oregon, and we can partner with anybody who is a nonprofit or a government entity. So I just wanted to say, I'm not going to read all of these, but just some of the new folks that we've been partnered with this year are Southeast Works, Lincoln County Shelter, Evergreen Aviation, Do Good Multnomah, Virginia Garcia, Jubilee Hall, Quest Center for Integrative Health, Crossroads Creative and Performing Arts, and El Programa Hispano. Those are just to name a few, but we're so grateful for all of the programs that we're able to support across the state with our seniors towards achieving employment. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you, and thank you for our returning folks who have been with us year after year. I think we've had the senior employment program for about 17 years. And so maybe next time I should add slides for our longest standing host agencies as well, because we're so grateful. We could not do what we do without all of you providing internship opportunities, training, and coaching for our participants. So I did just want to take a moment and say thank you to all of you for all of the support that you provide to our folks across the state. This is basically what I just said, but we couldn't do what we do without you. And so we cannot emphasize enough how important the host agency partnership is, and how grateful we are to have placements for our folks, to have the insight from you all about employment readiness, the coaching, guidance, support that you all provide to our participants is invaluable. So thank you so much for all that you do. We have some shout outs that I just wanted to share with you all. And I'll just read these to you. Sorry, I need some more coffee this morning. But the first one is, I would love to shout out Jubilee Hall. They have such an amazing training program. Our participant was able to get their food handler's card so quickly. They work on social, language, and work skills. Christina's communication is great. Beat has been great to work with, particularly their willingness to think creatively and supporting our participants, and how warm Jackie is in conversation with me. I appreciate Rico from UGM. She is on top of practical needs and great at answering questions, and her passion for the folks that rely on UGM shines through. Habitat in Lebanon goes above and beyond. They're committed to continuing to update and expand training opportunities for participants, then hiring people when they have funding. Chance in Albany for the support they provide not only to participants, but to the community. And Lucky Finds Thrift Store for their willingness to work with participants in overcoming employment barriers. I'd like to shout out WorkSource in Jackson and Josephine County. They are patient and supportive of all of our participants, whether they are customers or assigned to train there. They encourage and provide guidance as best they can to trainees, especially when they're experience an influx of foot traffic. Not only do they support them in improving their skill set, but they also support them best ways to reach their goals. For instance, one of the career coaches connected a participant with a potential employer, and that participant has an interview with them for an OJE. OJE stands for on-the-job training, or on-the-job experience, excuse me, if that is a unfamiliar acronym. If we have time, I can go into what OJE means a little bit more later. And I want to shout out South Coast Hospice in Coos County. They recently went through management changes, but they have been a tremendous partner and willing to learn the best solutions to support the participants during their assignments. Additionally, they recently created an office training assignment for one of our participants who had specific limitations. So thank you so much. Though that is just a small smattering, like I said, of the host agencies that we support. But we really do appreciate all that you do for our folks. And just want to say thank you again for all that you do. Okay, so these numbers are slightly under because I did this about 2 weeks ago, but currently we have served over 400 seniors who are actively seeking employment this year so far. We provide this grant in 34 out of 37 counties. We have had 61 participants achieve employment since July 2024. We have 204 active host agency partners across the state. And the community service hours, so those are the hours that participants train at a host agency, is over 202,000 hours across the state. And I know that that's low because we've had a couple pay periods since I did that before. So just talking a little bit about the impact that this program has in the state of Oregon. I also wanted to just outline that we have over 600 participants on a waiting list waiting to enter into the program. So this program is funded by the Department of Labor, and the Department of Labor tells us how many people we can serve at a time per county, and that is based on population size. So we are only able to enroll folks into the program once a slot is opened up. And so that's why we are always working to get participants to exit to employment, because once they exit, then we can bring in a new participant from the wait list. And we're always balancing that with budgets and other things on the back end that we need to make sure that we're tracking to make sure that we are on track with the goals that the Department of Labor has set out for this program. And so that's kind of the method behind the madness and why some counties only have one slot available. Our biggest county is Multnomah, and between our two grants, we can serve about 60 in Multnomah at a time. So that's kind of the range that we see across the state. There are, I think, 9 or 10 affiliates with Easterseals across the nation that provide the senior employment program through the Department of Labor. And Easterseals Oregon has been this year the #1 employer for these participants. So I said that a little weird, but our participants exit to employment more consistently than in other states. Alabama is our biggest competition. So we're always talking about Alabama, but Oregon has the biggest, oh, there's a typo in here, sorry about that. Oregon has the biggest exiting group of participants to employment. And that is a huge kudos to the training that our host agencies provide, because without that training, guidance, and coaching, they would not be able to achieve employment as quickly as they do. So just another opportunity to say thank you for all the work that you do. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the Senior Employment Program. The acronym is CSEP. So we call it the Senior Employment Program, but what it really is the Senior Community Service Employment Program. So community service is the hours that they do in a host agency. Some of you might have heard about remote training that we were doing during COVID. The Department of Labor allowed participants to train from home during COVID when the state was shut down. But the true intention of this program is to provide community service through internship placements at host agencies. So we have, I think, probably about 5% of our folks that are not placed at a host agency through the slow math, 280 or so participants that we have enrolled on a given day. About 5% of them are not placed at a host agency doing extra or additional or different training. But the true intention of this program is to have folks placed in internships with nonprofits or government agencies. Folks can come into our program for a whole bunch of different reasons, but they are lacking the basic skills to be able to achieve employment independently. So they are not job ready for whatever reason. The criteria to enroll in our program is you have to be over the age of 55, you have to be actively job seeking, and you have to be at 125% or more of the poverty line. For a single individual, that's about $19,000 a year. And so that other than those 3 things, and you have to live in a county that we provide services to. But other than that is the only criteria. The actively seeking jobs is something that we are really focusing on as we continue to grow as an organization coming out of COVID, and making sure that folks are able to be set up to be able to sustain employment long term, to be able to maintain housing, health, and all of the good things that come along with being employed. So that is why sometimes you'll have a participant that is placed with you that is not quite job ready. They might have been out of the workforce for a long time. They might have limited technology skills. They may be in the middle of a career change. Like they may have been doing construction up until this point and their body just can't do it anymore. And so they need to be trained in something else. And so that is why the folks that come to train at your site may not be 100% job ready, because if they were, they would hopefully be able to achieve employment without this program. This program is really intended to serve the folks who really need it the most. And as you know, the host agency training placement is where they develop those skills. They get that coaching, guidance, and support. And that is something that they can add to their resume. It's hopefully a current reference. It is a way to track their skill development. We have folks all the time that come in and say, like, I have never sent an email, and now they're emailing at their host agency every day and learning those skills. And that's something that's going to help them be more marketable in today's job market. Something I wanted to talk about is our hours. So as you know, our hours do fluctuate throughout the year, and that is based on available budget money that we have available through the grant. The goal of this grant is to be at 20 hours a week. Previously, until a couple months ago, we were at a higher number than that. And that was because typically during the winter months, our hours decrease, our enrollments slow down because of transportation, weather, etc. So we kept them up for the beginning part of the year, but we are at 20 now. And our program year ends June 30 and starts over July 1. So our money resets July 1. So we are keeping a very active and aware eye on our available budget. And that could result in increasing or decreasing the hours, just as we have the funding available. We try to make as few hour adjustments as possible, but with 300 participants training, with 300 different schedules, with 300 different situations going on, it is tricky to make sure that we are able to forecast. We really need to see what we've paid out. So we do our best to give as much notice as possible. Sometimes we don't have as much time as we wish that we had, but we are keeping a really close eye on that. And we plan to start the new program year at 20 hours a week, depending on kind of how this program year ends. And on that note, if 20 hours a week is not enough, then you can consider adding an additional participant. We have several participants that we are getting ready to enroll across the state before the end of the program year. So if you are thinking to yourself that you could really use additional support, please let me or your employment specialist know, and we will do what we can to make sure that we are able to provide you additional trainees. And a big piece of this program is that we are federally funded. We are funded through the Department of Labor. And the Department of Labor has had this grant, like I said, for many, many years. And it is important, but with this new administration, it is now more important than ever that we are hitting our metrics. We have several different metrics that we are required to hit to be in good standing. So that means that our participants have to be job seeking. We have to be rotating them to different placements because their goal is to get as much exposure as they can to add that to their resume to be able to achieve employment. We are tracked by our employment rates. So how many of our folks are exiting to employment, and many more things that we have to track behind the scenes. So you may hear from your employment specialist, if you have had a participant for 6 months or more, you may be hearing from your employment specialist that it is time to rotate them. The intention behind that is that we are giving them as much exposure to different experiences as we possibly can to help them achieve employment. And that they're not just sitting in the program, because that's one thing that we can't just have them do. We can't just have them collect a paycheck for doing the same task that they've been doing for 1 or 2 or hopefully not 3 years. And again, there are different factors that we consider in that. If it's a more rural area, if there are less job opportunities, if they have a really niche job that they're training for, like all of those things that we consider. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that rotation of participants is something that we are required to do. Another question that I get often is, can we hire our participants? The answer to that question is 100% emphatically yes. We would love for them to become a permanent employee at your location. But we can't have them sit and wait until they exit the program to become employed, because we need to open that spot for another participant who is not ready to achieve a job, and make sure that we are rotating them in and out as much as we can. Because like I said, we have 600 on the wait list across the state, and we are getting requests for the program every day. They have been increasing significantly. You may have heard that there are possible cuts to Medicaid coming up. We don't know how that is going to shake out. But if that happens, I expect the demand for this program to increase as well, as budgets for this population are going to continue to be tightened down and continue to increase. The other thing that I wanted to say is every year, every administration, there is a new budget that is rolled out by the new administration. And it seems like every time this happens, the senior employment program has been on the chopping block, because I don't know why, but it does happen about every 4 years. And so we are expecting to see that happen again this year. And so after this meeting, I'm going to be sending some follow-up materials out. But if you are interested in advocating for this program's funding to continue, it is now more important than ever that we are doing what we can to let the folks in on the Hill know how important this program is, not just to our participants, but we provide, I think Easterseals Oregon has a $16 million budget and over a $19 million economic impact across the state of Oregon. So if this program goes away, it's not only the seniors that are going to be impacted, it is going to be the host agencies that don't have the stream of volunteers. It's going to be the economy. I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of different stuff that goes away. So if you are interested in helping support us to make sure that we're able to continue this program long term, I'm going to send out some resources for that as well. Like I said, this happens every 4 years or more, and it has never gone away, even though it's kind of always something that is looked at. And so we are hopeful that that is not going to happen, but the more voices that we can add to that conversation, the better. I will also be having a similar conversation with participants during our next town hall, because I want to make sure that they are advocating for this program as well if they feel like it is a benefit to them, because they are also going to be immediately impacted if there is a change. At this point, I get this question a lot all the time too. At this point, we are operating as though we have the program until told otherwise. So we are still accepting referrals. We are still placing participants. We're still working to help them achieve employment. And we plan to continue to do that forever, at least as long as we are able to. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. Okay, and some program reminders. So participant rotation should happen every 6 to 9 months. That doesn't necessarily mean that a participant will move from their host agency placement, but they should be getting a new training assignment. So say that they come in and they're doing these 3 tasks, and after 6 months, they've mastered those tasks. Then it's time to give them a different task. If they have been doing reception and like scheduling, maybe the next step would be to have them do outreach phone calls or train on behind the scenes things that would support your agency but are different from what they were doing before, they can add additional tasks to what they're already doing. But at some point they should be being taught additional skills. Like, we don't just want them doing the same thing over and over again. So if you have a different department or a different job that they could train on, those are things that we're going to start talking about even more, because we want to make sure that we're giving them that exposure. And if you are in this meeting and you're feeling like, oh, I've had a participant for a really long time, expect a conversation about that coming up. And also, if we do rotate someone, we would love to put a new person into that position so they can get just as confident as the current participant that you have. We talk about this with participants all of the time, but we would love to be kept in the loop when participants call out. And this is important for a bunch of reasons. We're also approving their timesheets. They are expected to tell us and to tell you if they are going to be missing a training assignment. But sometimes that doesn't always happen. And this was several months ago, but we had a participant in one of our locations who didn't show up for their training for multiple days. That was very out of character for them. They were always consistent, but we didn't know that they hadn't shown up until about 4 days later. And then the host agency called us and said, like, yeah, it's weird, so-and-so hasn't made it to their training. Like, did they tell you anything? And we said no. We couldn't get a hold of them, so we did a wellness check. And she had fallen in her apartment and could not get to a phone and had been there for 4 days. She was okay, but we could have intercepted that sooner had we had known that she did not show up for those meetings or for those scheduled appointments. So it's an extreme situation, but it can happen. And as we are approving those timesheets and making sure that we're keeping track of what they're doing at their training assignments, just keeping us in the loop is really important. And if you can always ask them to make sure that they let us know. It is their responsibility to let us know, but just reminding them to make sure that they're communicating with us as well. It is most important that they let you know, because it's going to immediately impact you and your day-to-day operations sooner. But we also want to make sure that we're keeping track of all of that on the back end too. And that is a good employment training skill. If they're calling out consistently and they're not showing up on time, that could impact their ability to achieve employment. So that is something that we definitely want to make sure that we are in the loop with. As I said, our program year restarts July 1st. And with the new program year, we are going to do 2 host agency meetings next year. The goal is, I think we have about 30 host agencies in this meeting, which is great. But as I said, we serve about 200. So we want to give additional opportunity to get together, to connect, to talk about what's going well, what's not going well, areas for improvement, etc. So we will be doing another host agency meeting November 12th at 9. And then we'll keep the same schedule for next year, May 7th, 2026 at 9. It is also that time of the year where host agency agreements for the upcoming program year will be sent out. They got a little bit of a facelift from nationals. So the content is basically the same. The formatting is just a little bit different. So we will be getting those sent out to you today. Hopefully today, if not today, by the end of the week. We have been more lenient on this in the past, but as we tighten these things up, if we do not have a returned host agency agreement by July 30th for the new program year, we will have to pause all participants that are at a host agency that do not have an agreement, because it is basically for our paperwork purposes, that host agency doesn't exist. So we're paying a participant to train at a host agency that doesn't exist. So we can't do that. And so July 30th will be the last day. August 1st, anybody that we don't have a host agency agreement for, we will have to pause their training. We will send out reminders that those are due, but we're going to get those out to you extra early to make sure that you are able to get all of the paperwork done on your end, so there is no delay in training provided. We're also going to send out a bunch of stuff after this meeting. So we're going to do send out a 6-month evaluation. So if you've had a participant for 5, 6, 7, 11 plus months, we are required to do an annual or a 6-month evaluation. The supervisor is of the participant at the host agency. So basically just saying what's going well, what's not going well, what they've learned, what they can continue to develop on, etc. So we will be sending that out. You can do those at any time throughout the year, but this will just be a good time to get those completed as well and sent back to us so that we have that on file. We will also be sending out with that 6-month packet. The other thing that we're required to do every 6 months is a safety check. So that means a participant or a staff member goes out to the site and has a quick tour to make sure that the location is safe for the participants. We have seen an increase in workers' comp claims, not because the host agency is unsafe, but just because of circumstances that are outside of all of our controls. But because of that, one of our follow-ups is making sure that we are getting those documented more consistently than we have in the past. And so expect to hear from staff as well. I will be doing some traveling here in the next couple months. So hopefully I'll be able to make it out to your sites as well and meet you guys in person. And on that note, we will be sending out our workers' compensation paperwork. Hopefully you have never seen our workers' compensation paperwork because it has never come up. But the participants are covered under our workers' comp. So we want to make sure that if they do get hurt on the job site, that we are able to provide them that documentation so that they can take it to the doctor immediately so they don't miss out on those benefits that they might be eligible for through workers' comp. So I want to make sure that everybody has that handy. And as I said, the updated host agency handbook will also be sent out because it also got a facelift from nationals. So we are going to send that out to everybody after this meeting as well. And in that handbook, there is a grievance procedure at the end. Participants are able to file a grievance for anything with the program that they feel like they need to file. And they don't need to ask for a grievance form. So they get those when they enroll. They get them periodically throughout the year. We send them out. But we want to make sure that you guys have a copy of that as well, just in case anything goes on that we need to know about. There's a process that they need to follow to be able to make sure that the grievance is getting escalated appropriately. So that we're able to hopefully resolve any situations that come up, and if not, who the next point of contact would be for them. Timesheets. Everybody's favorite conversation, timesheets. They are due on the 1st and the 16th of every month. We have been working on making sure that that is more consistent. They can be turned in early. It is more of an issue if they are turned in late. They all need to be signed by you and the participant. And we want to make sure that we are getting those in as consistently as possible. When a timesheet is submitted without a signature, when it's late, things like that, we track that all on the back end because we cannot count those hours as hours provided if the timesheets are not completed thoroughly. And so right now, I haven't looked at it recently, but we have over 200 timesheet issues across the state, which those are hours that we can't claim because they, for all intents and purposes, if they're not signed, they don't exist. So you might have heard from an employment specialist that they need to come out to get signatures, things like that. That is because we need to make sure that all of those boxes are checked. When we get audited, they pull a random sampling of 40 probably timesheets. And if they get one that is unsigned, it is an audit finding. And so we just need to make sure that we are avoiding as many audit findings as possible because eventually they add up and it could impact our ability to provide this service. So I just wanted to make sure to reiterate the importance of getting those signed and in on time. We can receive them in any type of way, email, fax, text, etc. It is the participant's responsibility to submit timesheets. But if you would like timesheets sent directly to you, instead of going to your participant, we are happy to do that as well. We just have to make a change on the back end of our system. So you just have to let us know because it defaults to the participant. But if that is something that would make things easier on you, we're happy to do that. Another question that we get about timesheets is, will they ever be fillable? I would love if they were fillable. Right now, the system that we use to generate timesheets is not compatible with that software. So we are not able to do that at this time. It is something that we are constantly trying to figure out and create a workaround for, because I know that having them fillable would have an ease of completion. But at this point, we are not able to do that with the current system that we have. You can fill them out if you have Adobe. You can fill them out and type in there, but we do need a drawn signature, not a typed signature. That is something that the Department of Labor is very particular about, that it must be a drawn or ink signature instead of a typed signature. Consistent schedules. That's another thing that we're working on, ensuring that everybody has on file, so that we know when we get a timesheet, or if we don't get a timesheet, we can do the best guess of the hours that they trained, to be able to make sure that they're getting compensated for those hours correctly. So if your participants don't have a consistent schedule, please work with them to get one, because we want to make sure that we are mimicking an employer. And in most traditional employment, unfortunately for my staff in the room, you can't just show up when you want to and work for a couple hours and not communicate. So we are trying to make it mimic employment as much as possible. It can change and we can be flexible, but the more consistent we can get things, the better they are going to be set up for employment. I kind of put this in a weird order. Direct supervision. So on your timesheet, there is a direct supervision box at the bottom. Hopefully you all know what I'm talking about because I did not put a sample on here. But that box, you can either leave blank or put in a time for how many direct hours of supervision that you provided to that participant. So if you sat with them, if they trained for 4 hours a day and you sat with them for those 4 hours and you showed them everything that they needed to do for those 4 hours, then that would be 4 hours in that direct supervision box. If you talk to them for 30 minutes at the beginning of their shift and 30 minutes at the end of their shift, providing direct supervision, coaching, training, etc., then for that day, it would only be 1 hour. If you leave the box blank, we do a percentage of the time that they trained as direct supervision, but it is unlikely that you provided 20 hours of direct supervision every week for a participant training 20 hours a week. And again, you don't have to justify that time, but you can do a best guess as well. So they were here for 20 hours this week. I know I talked to them for 2 hours, so they received 2 hours of direct supervision. And the last thing about timesheets that I wanted to touch on is authorized signers. So when you get your new host agency agreement or your current host agency agreement, only the folks that sign that authorized signer form are approved to sign off on a participant timesheet. You can add folks to that list at any time throughout the year. You can take them off, but we do need to have their signature on file. That's another thing that the auditors love to look at to make sure that the signature on the timesheet matches the approved signers list. So my best advice would be have everybody sign it when you get your new host agency agreement. If you think if you're going to be on vacation and your assistant's going to be on vacation and the next person in line is going to be on vacation, then who would sign the timesheet? Anybody who might need to sign the timesheet can just sign that authorized signer form. And then you don't need to update it as much throughout the year. But if just you sign it, then only you are able to sign those timesheets. So we just want to make sure that as many folks sign that as possible. just to make sure that we are able to have that on file. And we don't have to come back and say like, well, can you sign this one too? Because the signature doesn't count and all of that fun stuff. But we do have people behind the scenes check the authorized signer list and the timesheet to make sure that they match. Which 300 timesheets every 2 weeks, that's a big job. So we just wanted to make sure to put that out there. I'm going to stop there because I just talked basically for 40 minutes straight and forgot to stop and ask for questions. There is going to be more time to talk about questions, but I know timesheets are a hot topic, so I just thought I would take a second. Yeah, Lynn.
I'm from Lynn Chemervalou from Multnomah County, Aging, Disability, and Veteran Services. And I just want to make sure I heard correctly that when you're talking about the kind of their task list or their position description, their assignment plan, and kind of that rotating and how long we're able to kind of have our person at our site, and that it is an okay practice that if you are kind of increasing their responsibilities, so they kind of have their, when they come to you and they've got their tasks and what it is they're doing and they've mastered those, and so you are giving them increased responsibilities or new training assignments, and so you're updating that is a good practice, and that is something that then is allowable and a way to kind of extend their time with you. Okay, because I've been doing that. I guess I've not been doing it like formally, and that I'm not giving you all that updated task list. They're updated because I do that all the time. I kind of have these like levels of, I call them position descriptions, but assignment, and I've been doing that. I have like this entry level, get you started. We use Google, and of course, in this, for the team that my folks, I have two senior employment folks with me. It's a hybrid team, so there's some people in the office, some people are working remote, and so our team members have to learn how to use Google and Google Chat, and so it's like that entry level of just learning those basic skills and tasks, and then we level up to the next thing, and now you're taking on more. And so I've got these different like levels of these position descriptions, and then of course, as you kind of master those, now you're taking on more duties. And so it's, I do that just naturally with my folks. So that's great that is like that, kind of legally extends their position with us, but I just need to loop you all in on that. So
yes, absolutely. So technically, participants are not supposed to train at any task that is not written on their training assignment description that we have on file.
That you have on file.
That we have on file. Yes. Yes. It has not happened that they have been asked that question so directly of like, do you only do these 5 things and nothing else? But it would still be good for us to do an updated training assignment, and that basically restarts their 6 months. And so if we have it on file, and then we can say like when it comes to write their resume, then we can pull those up and say like, these are all of the things that you have done. And it makes it a lot easier. And it's another thing that we can say, like, this is the impact this program is having on this participant because they started out doing this and now they're here. And we can track all of that if we have that information.
Great. Yeah, because this is also a great way that I kind of, I use like my one-on-one check-ins with them to kind of also get ideas from them. What are some skills that you want to learn? What are some things that you've noticed, or some gaps, or some ways that you can contribute to our program or to the work, interests that you have? Because that also makes it easier too. If it's an interest that they have or a skill they want to learn, let's go in that direction. Happy to help support them in a particular training or learning. And if it's going to contribute to our program, the work, that awesome, win-win. So great, let's weave that in. Let's do that, anyway. Okay, cool. I'll formalize that then. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Dave. Long time.
Also a question. Yeah, so I have a question about training that might take place outside of our office. Actually, very apropos to the last question. our participant really needs a lot of Google training to be successful. And I kind of realized a couple weeks in that that would be better provided by someone who actually has greater Google expertise than we do. And so but our participants seemed to believe that any outside training, like in this case by WorkSource Oregon, had to be approved directly by you all before she could pursue that training in this case, Google related software programming by WorkSource Oregon. And so we just ended up losing a couple of weeks there of time as she was waiting to get that approval. That approval isn't required, is it?
So good question. We have been telling them consistently that they have the only hours that they can put on their timesheet are hours trained at a host agency. If the host agency is asking them to do the training, in this case you are, and say it's during your training hours, then those are hours that she can still put on her timesheet as hours trained at the host agency because you were asking her to do that. If it is outside of the training hours, they are able to do whatever they want during those hours. They just can't put it on their timesheet. So that would be something to let us know that they got training in and on, but because it's being asked from you guys, if it's during those training hours, then it would just be those hours that she is supposed to be with you doing those trainings. But if it's outside of that or it changes their schedule, then that would be something that we need to know because we need to be able to make sure that we're following the rules of like them. All of the remote training questions are unique and different. In this case, I would say it's totally fine. And then like what the time limit is on that. So we just have to ask a couple more questions because the Department of Labor has been very clear that the only hours that they can put on timesheets are hours trained at a host agency. If that makes sense.
So just to restate what I think I heard,
Yeah.
that as long as it's within her 20 hours and it's within her normal schedule with us, even if it happens to be taking place off-site at WorkSource Oregon, that's fine.
Yeah. You would just sign off on those hours like normal, like she was at your site. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
And then Kathryn, I think there's a question in the chat.
I don't have the chat up. Let's see. You mentioned drawn or ink signatures. Is that an or? If we have a drawn printed signature, is that okay? Yes. So when I sign things, I drew my signature in the computer and then I just copy and paste it. So it's not a new signature every time. But as long as it's just not a straight up like typed cursive signature that the computer would generate, then it's totally fine. Cool. Okay. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about an upcoming event. So every year is National Employee Older Workers Week. It is always the last full week of September. So this year it's going to be September 22nd through 26th. So during that week, we provide participants with a ton of virtual opportunities for learning. So we have job coaches, business coaches, financial planners, resume experts, things like that come and do presentations during that week that participants are able to opt into. Last year, I think we had 10 or so hours of those trainings available. So I just wanted to put that on your radar that they're able to do that on their own time, but if they want to get paid for that time, they would need to adjust their schedule with you all. So I just wanted to make sure that you had that kind of on your radar. That it is coming up. It is a really fun week. And the goal of that week is to help participants add additional tools to their tool belt to be able to be successful once they achieve employment. We also do mock interviews during that time. We try to set up interviews with employers, things like that, to help them achieve employment. So just wanted to put that on your radar. And then I also wanted to invite anybody who might be interested for the opportunity to talk to our national representative. So our annual site review, they don't call it an audit, monitoring is what they call it, is happening May 16th, 17th, and 18th, I think. It will be virtual this year. Typically when they come in person, we stop by a couple host agencies, we introduce them to participants. And they get to meet the supervisors. And since it's happening virtually, that opens it up for the whole state to be able to participate. So if you are interested in speaking to an Easterseals representative in Chicago about your experience with CSEP, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, etc., it is all allowable. And just let them know the impact seniors have, the challenges that you're having, things like that. I just wanted to open that up to you. If you are interested, you can always let me know, and I'd be happy to get something scheduled. Can even just be like a quick 30-minute video call. Be pretty informal. And the gentleman's name is Dion, and he's very nice and familiar with Oregon, so should be good. But if that's something that you're interested in doing, please let me know. And there's my contact information. If you are interested in letting me know, email or my cell phone number, you can text me too. Sometimes phone calls are harder because I'm in a good number of meetings every day, but emails or texts are great. And if you call me, I will always give you a call back. It just might take me a little bit longer. And that puts me at where I wanted to stop for questions or comments. Dave.
On that last point you made, I personally have no interest in talking with the national person, but if there's benefit for you all and some of us talking to the national person, then please let us know that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, there's definitely a benefit for them to know, because they don't know what happens in host agencies or how people feel unless we tell them. But it's always better to hear from you than from us. But I don't want to inundate him with, I just want like one or two host agencies. So if it's not your thing and you have no interest, no worries.
Just let me know if no one volunteers. I am willing.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
I'd be willing to volunteer. This is Lynn with Multnomah County.
Awesome.
And I am too. I'm Ricky with Habitat for Humanity Restore. So,
how many folks do you have right now?
right now, I've got I think four to five. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, that might be a good one too, since you have a wide gamut of folks. Yeah. And Lynn, I would love for them to hear about your progression schedule. I think they would really like that. So perfect. I wrote both of those down.
And if you ever need a pinch hitter, this is Delisa with Volunteers in Medicine. We have 3 of your workers here, your trainees.
Awesome. What county are you in again, Delisa?
Wayne County. We're in Springfield.
Awesome. Okay. I knew I recognized your name, but I couldn't pinpoint it on the map. Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I just expanded my window so I can see more of you. Wonderful. All right. Well, keep an eye out after this meeting. Like I said, I'm going to send out the recording and the PowerPoint. We're going to send out host agency agreements here in a little bit. And then we're going to send out some additional documentation, the handbook, the workers' comp paperwork, things like that. And then we'll also send you out an opportunity for advocacy with legislatures for this program, if that's something that you're interested in doing as well. I know it's a lot to ask, so no pressure to do anything extracurricular at all, but I just wanted to make sure that we shared as much information and resources as possible with you all. And I know I said it a lot at the beginning, but thank you all for your partnership. We are very grateful for each and every one of you and the opportunities that you provide our participants. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week and a very sunny Wednesday.
Thank you. This is great.
Wonderful. I'm glad it was good. I wanted to make sure it was valuable for your time.